All right. So maybe you're thinking about starting an online business
Okay.
and you want to make sure that it's sustainable right from the very beginning,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And that's why we're doing this deep dive today.
Right.
We're going to be looking at an article from blogwidow.com called How to Build a Sustainable Online Business with Eco-Friendly Practices.
Cool.
It was published pretty recently on February 22nd, 2025, so it's got some really up-to-date information.
Nice.
And honestly, some of this stuff I never would have even thought of.
It's interesting
Yeah.
how much this article really kind of highlights that consumers are becoming
Yeah,
much more aware of the impact that a company has on the environment.
right.
So building a sustainable business isn't just a trend anymore.
Yeah,
It can actually give you a competitive edge.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
But maybe before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
we should start with the basics.
Okay.
What does eco-friendly even mean when we're talking about like an online business?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
When we talk about eco-friendly or green practices for an online business, we're essentially talking about reducing its impact on the environment.
Okay,
So that could mean minimizing waste,
right.
lowering carbon emissions,
Yeah.
or being smarter about how we're using resources.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the article jumped right in with something that I honestly never even considered.
Uh-huh.
Green web hosting.
Okay.
Most people don't realize that websites actually use a lot of energy, right?
It's true.
The act to run.
Data centers, which are basically giant warehouses full of servers that power websites, consume a huge amount of electricity.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's where green web hosting comes in.
Okay.
These providers prioritize using renewable energy sources like solar, wind, or hydropower to run their data centers.
So instead of relying on fossil fuels, they're using clean energy
Exactly.
to power all those websites.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly small choices can actually make a difference.
Yeah.
The article mentioned Green Geeks as one example. Don't they plant trees for every hosting plan that they sell?
They do.
Really?
Not only do they purchase renewable energy credits to offset their carbon footprint, they also plant trees to further combat climate change.
Wow.
It's a fantastic initiative.
So they're carbon neutral,
They are carbon neutral, yeah,
which means they offset as much carbon as they
as they produce.
produce. Yeah, wow. Wow.
And A2 Hosting's another great example.
Okay.
They've partnered with various environmental organizations to offer carbon neutral hosting options as well.
So there are already a bunch of options out there.
There are.
I'm already thinking I need to switch providers.
Yeah.
Okay, so green web hosting is a great first step.
Yeah.
What else did the article highlight?
Going paperless was another big one.
That seems pretty obvious for an online business.
Yeah.
But I'll admit, I still use way more paper than I'd like to.
You and me both.
Yeah.
But there are some great digital tools that can help.
Okay.
For example, the article mentions DocuSign for electronic signatures. This eliminates the need to print contracts or forms,
Right.
scan them, and then send them back.
Yeah.
It's all done digitally.
Oh, yeah. I've used DocuSign before.
Yeah,
It's so much faster and easier than dealing with all that paper.
right.
I bet it saves businesses a ton of money, too.
Yeah, certainly.
What about storing and sharing documents online?
Right. The article talks about using Google Workspace for that.
Okay.
It lets you create, share, and store documents online, which cuts down on printing and physical storage needs.
Gotcha.
And if you, like me, are a big fan of to-do lists,
Oh, yeah.
Trello is another great tool mentioned in the article.
Okay.
Basically acts as your digital brain for project management,
Right.
keeping everything organized and accessible online.
Okay. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
So we've covered green web hosting and going paperless.
Uh-huh.
What about if your online business involves selling physical products?
Right.
There's still packaging and shipping to consider, right?
Absolutely. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And the article stresses the importance of eco-friendly packaging and shipping practices.
Okay.
One company they highlight is Noishu.
Okay.
They offer a wide range of customizable packaging options that are not only sustainable, but also compostable.
Wait, compostable packaging?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is.
What does that even mean?
It means that instead of ending up in landfill, the packaging can break down naturally in a compost pile,
Oh, wow.
returning nutrients to the soil.
Oh,
And get this, Noishu also plants a tree for every order.
hold on. They plant a tree for every order?
They do.
So not only are they using eco-friendly materials, but they're actively contributing to reforestation efforts.
Exactly.
I am loving this.
Yeah.
The article also mentioned eco-enclose, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're another great option that focuses on providing a wide variety of eco-friendly packaging solutions
Okay.
with a strong emphasis on reducing waste.
It seems like there are so many options out there now.
There are,
What's really interesting is that the article mentions customers are willing to pay a bit more for sustainable shipping, too.
yeah,
So it's good for the planet and good for business.
it is a win-win.
Win-win. I like that.
For sure.
All right, so we've got green web hosting going paperless and eco-friendly packaging and shipping. What's next?
The next point the article brings up is thinking about your suppliers
Okay.
and building a sustainable supply chain.
Okay.
It's not just about what your business does directly,
Right.
but also about who you choose to work with.
It's about ensuring that the companies you're partnering with are also committed to ethical and environmentally responsible practices.
Exactly.
Okay.
The article emphasizes the importance of looking for suppliers who hold certifications like Fairtrade, USDA, Organic, or Rainforest Alliance.
Could you break down what those certifications actually mean?
Sure.
I see them all the time, but I'm not always sure what they represent.
Of course. Fairtrade certification ensures that producers, often in developing countries, are paid a fair price for their goods and work in safe and humane conditions.
Okay.
USDA organic certification means that products are grown without the use of synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers.
Gotcha.
And the Rainforest Alliance certification focuses on protecting biodiversity, conserving natural resources, and promoting the well-being of workers and communities in rainforest regions.
Okay, so those certifications provide some assurance that the products are being sourced responsibly.
Exactly.
But how do you actually track all of that?
Well, the article mentions a really cool tool called SourceMap.
Oh,
It helps businesses map out their supply chains and track the sustainability practices of their suppliers.
wow.
All about transparency and accountability.
That's incredible. So not only can you choose suppliers who align with your values, but you can actually track their practices to ensure they're living up to those standards.
Exactly.
What about moving away from physical products altogether?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the article actually touches on that too.
Okay.
They suggest considering digital products as a way to minimize your environmental impact even further.
So things like ebooks, online courses, or software subscriptions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those don't require any physical resources or shipping.
Right.
So I can see how that would be much more sustainable.
Plus, everyone's looking for online courses these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for you, your customers, and the planet.
Perfect. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But I feel like we're just scratching the surface of
Yeah.
what's possible.
Definitely.
Before we move on to the next part of the article, is there anything else that really stood out to you in this first section?
One thing that resonated with me was the idea that building a sustainable online business is a journey,
Okay,
not a destination.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
It means that there's always room for improvement.
Okay.
You know, we're all constantly learning and evolving.
Right.
And the article emphasizes that every step you take towards sustainability is a step in the right direction.
I like that.
So even if you can't implement every single suggestion right away,
Yeah,
don't get discouraged.
right.
Every little bit helps.
That's a good reminder. It can be easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah,
But focusing on progress over perfection is key.
definitely.
Before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's take a quick break and come back to dive into the next section of the article.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
I'm excited to see what other insights we can uncover.
Me too.
Welcome back.
All right, we're back.
I'm ready to keep exploring these ideas for sustainable online businesses.
Me too. I'm already feeling inspired to make some changes to how I do things. Before the break, we were talking about how building a sustainable online business is a journey and that even small steps can make a difference.
Right.
Where does the article go from there?
It dives into some of the broader impacts of making these eco-friendly choices.
Yeah.
One of the biggest takeaways for me was that shifting to a more sustainable mindset can actually spark a ton of innovation.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have necessarily connected those two things.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, when you start prioritizing sustainability, it forces you to get creative.
Yeah.
You have to rethink your processes, challenge assumptions, and find new solutions.
Right.
It pushes you beyond the status quo and can lead to some pretty amazing discoveries.
So it's like sustainability becomes a catalyst for coming up with new and better ways of doing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And often those innovations can lead to other benefits like cost savings or increased efficiency.
Oh, okay.
For example, if you're trying to reduce waste in your packaging, you might discover a new material that's not only more eco-friendly,
Right.
but also cheaper and more durable.
Interesting.
Or if you're trying to lower your carbon emissions, you might find ways to streamline your shipping processes that also save you time and money.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about doing good for the planet, it can actually be good for your bottom line as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's a message that resonates with a lot of business owners.
for sure.
The article also points out that sustainability is becoming a major differentiator in the marketplace.
Right. I've noticed that consumers, especially like younger generations,
Yeah,
really care about where their products come from and how they're made.
totally.
They're more likely to choose a brand that aligns with their values, even if it costs a bit more.
You're spot on. Sustainability is not a niche concern anymore.
Right.
It's becoming a mainstream expectation.
Yeah.
And businesses that ignore that shift are going to be left behind.
So it's not just about being sustainable, it's about being transparent about your efforts as well.
Transparency is key.
Okay.
Consumers want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it,
Right.
and what impact it's having.
Yeah.
The article really emphasizes the importance of sharing your sustainability journey with your customers,
Okay.
being open about your goals and your challenges,
Right.
and even inviting them to be part of the process.
So it's about building trust and authenticity, not just checking boxes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And remember those certifications we talked about earlier?
Uh,
Like Fair Trade, USDA, Organic and Rainforest Alliance?
right.
Those can play a big role in building that trust.
Right.
They provide third-party verification that you're meeting certain standards.
So it's like having a seal of approval that customers can easily recognize and understand.
Yeah.
It takes the guesswork out of making ethical choices.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got innovation, market differentiation, and transparency.
Uh-huh.
What else does the article highlight?
The power of storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
How does that relate to sustainability?
Well, think about it. People are more likely to connect with a brand on an emotional level
Right.
if they can relate to its story.
Okay.
Sharing your sustainability journey, the challenges you've faced, the wins you've celebrated, the lessons you've learned,
Yeah.
it makes your brand more relatable and human.
I can see that instead of just listing facts and figures, you're inviting people into your world
Exactly.
and showing them what drives you.
Right.
It's about sharing your values and your vision for a more sustainable future.
Exactly. And that authenticity can be incredibly powerful in building brand loyalty.
This is all so inspiring, but it also feels like a lot to take on.
It's true that building a sustainable business can feel overwhelming at times.
Yeah,
There are so many things to consider.
right.
But one of the key messages in this article is that you don't have to do it all alone.
Okay.
Collaboration is essential.
What do you mean by collaboration?
It means partnering with other businesses, organizations, or even your own customers
Okay.
to share ideas, resources, and best practices.
Gotcha.
It means supporting initiatives that are driving positive change in your industry or community.
So it's about creating a network of like-minded people who are all working towards the same goal.
Yes, it's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
No one business can solve these challenges alone.
I love that it's about creating a ripple effect of sustainability that extends far beyond your own operations.
For sure.
This conversation has been really eye-opening. I feel like I'm starting to see the bigger picture of what sustainability means for an online business.
Me too. It's not just about making a few eco-friendly swaps.
Right.
It's about transforming your entire mindset and approach to business.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of big picture concepts.
We have.
Does the article offer any specific actionable steps that listeners can take to get started?
It absolutely does. In the final section, it provides a roadmap for putting these principles into practice.
Okay.
Want to hear about those?
For sure, let's dive into those action steps in the final part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into sustainable online business practices. I'm feeling pretty pumped after that last conversation. We covered so much ground, from innovation to collaboration to the power of storytelling.
Yeah, it really is amazing how many different facets there are to building a sustainable business.
Yeah. Exactly. But I'm ready to move beyond the big picture and get into some actual action steps. The last section of the article from blogwidow.com is all about that, right?
It is.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, the first tip is to start small.
Okay.
Don't feel like you have to overhaul your entire business overnight.
Right.
Choose one or two areas to focus on and build from there.
That's a good point. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you think about all the things you could be doing. So maybe pick one area that feels manageable and start making some changes there.
Exactly. And the article suggests doing an audit of your current practices
Yeah.
as a good starting point.
Okay.
Look at how much energy you're using, what kind of waste you're generating, what your shipping practices are like.
Mhm.
Once you have a clearer picture of your current impact, you can start setting realistic goals.
That makes sense. It's hard to know where to go if you don't know where you're starting from. Okay, so step one is to start small and do an audit. What's next?
Education. The more you and your team know about sustainable practices, the better equipped you'll be to implement them effectively.
Right.
There are so many resources available these days, from online courses to industry events to, well, podcasts like this one.
I'm a big fan of podcasts. There's such an easy way to learn something new while you're commuting or doing chores, so invest some time in educating yourself and your team. Got it. What else?
Don't forget to engage with your customers.
Okay.
Share your sustainability journey with them, be transparent about your goals, and invite their feedback.
I love that idea. It makes your customers feel like they're part of the solution, not just passive consumers.
Exactly. It builds trust and loyalty, and it can even lead to some great ideas. Your customers might have suggestions you never even considered.
Plus, people are more likely to stick with a company they believe in. If your customers see that you're genuinely committed to making a difference, they're more likely to become loyal advocates for your brand. Okay, so we've got starting small, conducting an audit, educating yourself and your team, and engaging with your customers. Anything else?
The last tip, and this one is really important, is to celebrate your successes.
Oh, yeah.
Sustainability is a journey, and there will be bumps along the way. Don't get discouraged if things don't go perfectly. Acknowledge your progress, no matter how small, and stay motivated.
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get caught up in striving for perfection and forget to acknowledge how far you've come. We all need a little pat on the back sometimes.
Oh.
Okay, so that wraps up our deep dive into sustainable online business practices. We've covered so much ground today, from green web hosting to ethical supply chains to the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling incredibly energized to take action.
Me too. This has been such a thought-provoking conversation, and I'm really excited to see how listeners use these insights to build more sustainable businesses.
Before we sign off, we want to leave you with one final question to ponder: what's one change you can make today to make your online business more sustainable? It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul. Even a small step in the right direction can make a difference.
Remember, every action counts. Choose your action, commit to it, and start making a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive. We'll be back next time with another insightful exploration. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making the world a better place.